I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. I'm a sucker for cameras on high-end phones. There's nothing more addictive and fun than taking that rad selfie for your Twitter profile or hitting the perfect angle in portrait mode for your daily Instagram post. That is why a good camera and creative software are very important for a great user experience. This is precisely the reason we're going to be looking at the very impressive flagship devices of Apple and Sony. On one side, we have a powerhouse from the United States, and on the other, the pride and joy of Japan. The battle between the Apple iPhone 13 Pro Max and the Sony Xperia 1 Mark III is about to commence. Which of these devices will emerge victorious? Long may it reign, and let the facts speak. So, I'm guessing we all agree that audio quality is quite important, because that's what we all use mobile phones for, right? We're just gonna do a quick indoor audio test of the Apple iPhone 13 Pro Max and the Sony Xperia 1 Mark III. I'm guessing they're gonna be about similar quality because these are both really high-end phones, but if you guys hear any difference, make sure to let us know. And now it's time for the outdoor sound test. This is also quite important because you never know when you might be caught up in windy weather. So what do you guys think? Is the quality still up to your standards? Make sure to leave a comment and let us know. As you can hear for yourself, they're both decent quality indoors, with the iPhone having a slightly louder and clearer audio. Outdoors, the wind pretty much takes out most of the capabilities of the microphones, so there's not really much to compare. With the indoor quality, Apple edges slightly forward in this first comparison. Now, it's quite interesting that both phones have completely different problems when it comes to zoom. The iPhone is known for capturing colors and details spectacularly, and the Xperia is generally praised for its eye-catching and natural rendering. While the Xperia started off great, you can clearly see the loss of focus and slight blurring as we get closer, and the brightness level just goes through the roof. The iPhone, unsurprisingly, also had a good start, but for some reason added an effect to the videos that remind me of oil paintings. Of course, zoom isn't the most important thing in a camera, since most people rarely use it after 2x. So while I do believe that both cameras definitely deserve their praise in producing excellent pictures, Apple seems to have one up over Sony when it comes to keeping the quality of the photo at an acceptable standard while zooming. Is it really that important though? As everyone already knows, you don't need the zoom for pictures you put on social media. It's the age of Instagram and Twitter, and there's nothing better than a pose struck for the camera in portrait mode. Straight off the bat, there's a visible difference in the way the colors are presented to you. Just like with the zoom, the brightness in the background of the Xperia is a little overwhelming. I really don't want to believe my forehead is that big, so my preference is going to be on the side of the iPhone with a better contrast and overall image quality. I also don't think much changes with the transition to portrait selfies, as the brightness is even more than before on Sony's side. Not to mention the software deciding to enlarge my eyes in a way that, while I do look cuter, I don't think that's how I look in real life. And I definitely need to draw attention to the bokeh effect on the iPhone. The Xperia uses it really sparingly, and the background is just not blurred enough to keep the focus on my face, unlike the iPhone, which gets another point. But the real question is, will it be able to keep the focus on something much more important than me and my flashy poses? Yes, I'm talking to all you nature lovers out there that whip out your phone and switch on macro mode as soon as you see a magnificent tree or a dazzling flower with beautiful features. It just seems that when it comes to photography, Apple's software is proving difficult to match up to. Of course, there's the obvious issue with the Xperia not having a dedicated macro mode, and at this price range, I just don't understand why. It's not really a contest at this point because the iPhone is able to get much closer to the images without any hassle. Since we've mentioned macro mode, you know how it's really hard to keep your hands steady when trying to take a picture? Older phones had issues with this and would often produce blurry pictures. That's where the habit of taking more than one picture comes from. In this situation, both phones do a great job of keeping the image stable, even with an unreasonable amount of movement, so there's no victor here. Of course, this isn't the only situation where we will evaluate how well these devices perform when it comes to movement. One of the most sought after qualities in high-end mobile cameras is always a bonus if you feel like you're carrying a mini video recorder in your pocket. Especially with the new and popular action cams, the quality of stabilization is of paramount importance. I should note that Apple does not include a dedicated stabilization mode in its video camera. Instead, it relies on the software to detect and smooth out movement. So there's no surprise that Sony has gotten one up over Apple on this one. and I'm honestly impressed with how smooth the movement is on the Xperia. Speaking of smoothness, check out the leaves falling from the sky with 1080p and 240 FPS on the iPhone and 1080p 120 FPS on the Xperia. Sony has also put in a 4K feature for slow motion at 120 FPS, whereas Apple limits you to 60 FPS if you want to record slow motion in 4K. Unfortunately, the 4K 120 FPS is limited to the Pro app of the Xperia. If you're wondering what that is, we'll give you a little insight at the end of the video. There isn't much to discuss here in terms of quality, and I'd say both are pretty much equal, so I'm calling it a draw. And I might as well keep calling it a draw because standard pictures taken with the wide camera in these phones are just amazing. Sublime, divine, whatever you want to call it, the iPhone and the Xperia are truly two of the best smartphones out there when you just want to take some good old pictures in the city. The Xperia has slightly warmer colors and darker shadows, while the iPhone likes to sharpen it up just a little bit to give the photos that crispness, but overall, I personally can't choose between the two. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for the videos. While some of them look exactly the same, the software of the Xperia applies a blue tint in some contexts, which is not necessary at all, and takes away from the natural visuals of the video. It gives off the vibe that there's a layer over the original video that results in the change in color. This isn't true in every situation though, as both cameras produce top-notch videos when the lighting is just right. All in all, the iPhone comes out on top here because no matter where you are and what you're recording, the software does a great job of determining the level of white balance, contrast, and saturation. But of course, software is limited in what it can do. In this day and age, with regard to pictures taken at night when the lighting isn't adequate, there are bound to be some issues in terms of depth and color correction. Even though there's only so much a phone can do in these conditions, Apple continues to impress with its great attention to detail and being able to accurately capture the majority of the colors in the background. Sony, on the other hand, is having the same problems it was having with the photos taken at daytime. The inability of the software to adjust the contrast and brightness leaves you with images that just look burned. But again, this mostly depends on the context of the photo. The Xperia does produce decent pictures and videos, it just needs to be in the right spot. For example, the quality is apparent when you pay attention to the cars and the details of the buildings, but the accurate perception of the colors is just not there. A slight yellow tint is present in the Xperia, so the iPhone is once again coming out on top with its ability to tone down the bright lights in the frame, which definitely makes the videos easier to look at. Before we get to the conclusion, I would like to mention that while shooting with the Xperia, we used the auto mode while taking pictures and recording video rather than the Pro application for photographers. Research shows that the majority of smartphone users prefer the auto mode when using their phone's cameras, so this comparison is meant to focus on the preferences of the everyday user, which will, for the most part, go in the way of the Apple iPhone 13 Pro Max. There's no doubt that it does a great job, and excels especially when it comes to zoom, portrait photos, and videos in general. In the other corner, the Sony Xperia 1 Mark III has the upper hand when taking action shots with its advanced stabilization and focus. Overall, the iPhone is easier to use and produces better results regardless of the setting and lighting, and will be my camera of choice for this video. If you enjoyed our review and want to see more of our content, drop a like and hit that subscribe button to stay in touch with our newest videos. Take care and see you in the next one.